Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Josh and Jesse Money Christian Conspiracy Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Monday. If you know me, I'm a Christian rapper, devoted husband, father, and Army veteran. And I got a very special guest for you today, Levi Walstead. How's it going, my brother?
Hey, how's it going, Josh? How you doing?
Good, good. Thank you so much for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
I have some questions for you, bro. So we,
Of course, shoot away, man. Absolutely anything you got.
yeah. So first off, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, and what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, thanks everybody for tuning in. My name is Levi Walstead. I'm one of the owners there at US Door, and we are essentially when the government needs facilities maintained, repaired, essentially gone through. Uh, our job is to get there, get that job done. And over the course of the past 5 years, we've had the opportunity to not only handle McMurdo Station, but some of the other sort of avenues down in Antarctica. Um, so yeah, we've been cultivating that business now for the past, yeah, again, 5 years. Had a really great run with it so far. I've deployed me personally four separate times. One was a solo. Most of them were with other guys. This year was my first time not deploying, but we did send a team down there and they had a great time and got to learn a lot and spend a lot of time with very smart people. So it was a
Nice.
great experience.
Awesome. Well, I have a lot of flat earth and biblical cosmology believers that listen to the show. And me, I go through biblical cosmology and I teach that as well. And what happened is there was a group of guys that went down to Antarctica. It was Pastor Will Duffy, basically a couple of flat earthers and couple globe earthers. And they got together and they went down to Antarctica and they filmed the 24-hour sun. Okay. So I had some questions to you about that, about the 24-hour
Of
sun
course.
in Antarctica. Okay. So, have you seen the 24-hour sun in the Arctic? I'll ask you first.
I haven't been to the Arctic. We've
Okay.
only traveled to the Antarctic.
Okay.
So I can really only speak on that. We're working on getting up to the north,
Okay.
probably in the next coming years. But as far as that, yes, that sun is brutal. It is 24 hours a day. Every person we send down there, sunglasses are mandatory.
Okay.
If you ever seen the movie Dune or whatever it was, they wear this type of mask type of thing. We try to tell people that's sort of like your sunglasses. It will absolutely fry your eyes.
Yeah.
How stinking bright it is out there, and it's a 24/7 ordeal.
Okay. And you've gone out there basically in December. Is that the time that you go out there when there's a 24-hour sun?
Yeah, most deployment dates are going to be from, and this is just from Antarctica as a perspective. Pole is anything after November, it gets pretty busy all the way up until pretty much April.
Okay.
And that's when everything starts to shift over and winter comes and it creates a lot more nightmares essentially. But
Yeah.
that's correct.
Okay. So you've been there basically during that time. Okay. So when you have you been to Union Glacier before to do anything there, or is it only McMurdo?
So McMurdo and then parts surrounding McMurdo. There's a couple other offsite camps we can't talk a whole lot about. Um, but I don't believe I've been to Union Glacier.
Okay. But McMurdo though, you've been to that. Okay.
Correct.
And when you were there, so you saw that you witnessed the 24-hour sun when you're in Antarctica.
Yeah, that's correct.
Wow. Insane. That's awesome. So that's what the guys had to do when they were there. They had to wear sunglasses the whole time. That was part of the deal. And then you guys probably have a whole suits and everything you kind of have to wear when you're out there for is it cold out there when you're there? Can you see your breath when you're
You
there?
know, I'm from Southern California, so anything under 72 degrees is considered frigidly cold. We
Yeah,
put
yeah.
Patagonias on it's DEFCON 5 as soon as we get out there. But for the most part, it is not too bad. I mean, you're looking at obviously freezing temperatures, which are I think 32. I know it does get down to like negative 100, 175, negative 175 recorded before. And again, that's way past my California uh,
Of course.
thinking. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just an interesting story. But the last time I was out there with a really good friend of mine, Harry, um, went out there. It was like 1 in the morning, and both of us we couldn't sleep. And I was like, "How about a beach day?" So sure enough, we got a six pack, our shorts and sandals on as a joke, and walked down to the beach and had a beer and had a great time. But it was such a funny thing to have our phone out, taking pictures with our phone at 1 in the morning with the sun up at noon
Okay.
um, the
Wow.
entire time. So
Wow.
yeah, play some
Interesting.
tricks
Yeah.
on you.
Yeah, so what happened is the flat Earth community were saying that there's no 24-hour sun in Antarctica, and that the guys that went there were lying. And I have a couple people that I talked to that actually went, and they verified it with me. And so that's why I kind of wanted you to come on the show. Partly that, partly also so you can kind of go over. You had some other stuff about Antarctica. You said you saw like some pyramids or something kind of crazy or.
Yeah, there's going to Antarctica, when you come back, you are inundated, and everyone wants to ask you the aliens and not these space camps. Which is, by the way, it's great. It's fascinating. I've read all the Shackleton books. There are so many documented accounts of definitely some odd things going on down there that I think deserve any type of investigation, any type of not even just scientists, just people looking into really what's going on. I know the United States military had deployed there two separate times, which now I think we kind of juggle this idea that they sent some ships down there to go check it out, which is completely inaccurate. I mean, judging just by the deployment list of what was entailed, it was an armada of ships, airplanes. It essentially was an entire military force to go down there for an entire summer season. And for whatever reason, they packed their stuff, turned around, and went back in about 40 days. And I think I the original, 200 days they had planned to stay out there. But yeah, there's definitely some odd things out there that you immediately start to recognize. Um, the I'm trying to think how I would explain that correctly. The environment's different, and that might just be psychologically because you're so isolated from everything else. You feel like you're kind of at a summer camp or a space camp, so to speak, until really I didn't feel any different until my wife called me and I looked on my Apple Maps and I'm like, I'm a long way from home. Specifically, when you're at McMurdo, I believe you're 24,600 something miles away from the nearest Home Depot, which can be quite concerning since you got to go fix stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as some of the more conspiracy side things that are down there, for sure there's satellite imagery that it's public. We've seen some stuff down there as well. There is pyramids. There's pyramids that you can actually go look at on the United States Geological Survey Group.
Mhm.
They post their satellite imagery all the time, and it's not. It was redacted for a long time, I think, up until there's so much imagery coming out where the government has to basically release this and say, yeah, this is this odd shape that we have out here. And to the best of my knowledge is there's no other shape like that in that area. The one other thing I will point out in specifically Antarctica, and nobody knows why. I know there's tons of research groups out there right now continually trying to figure this out, but for whatever reason, the iceberg will break off in perfect cubes, squares, essentially. And I always thought that was fascinating. Why anywhere else on the planet we don't see that, but here there is a geometrical shape that pops off, and that's what it always is a
Wow,
perfect
interesting.
square.
And then how restrictive are they when you go out there, like as far as like being able to kind of do like an adventure looking around? Were they pretty restrictive on where you can go?
Yeah, so the first time I went, I found that out very quickly. Me being the kind of photographer here and there, if I can, immediately went on a hike, started taking pictures of stuff I probably shouldn't have been taking pictures of, and most of that was kind of the CIA's satellite systems out there, which I totally understand. They don't want that stuff on the internet to be copied or hacked into. So they're pretty cool about that. But as far as actually navigating out of McMurdo, it's extremely challenging for a couple different reasons. There are hiking paths you can go on that go quite far out, but really it comes down to two things. Is number one, it's going to be safety. You can get caught into a storm immediately, and you can be cooked pretty quick. So that's something in the back of your head when you're going off on a hike. You do need to kind of set a plan, know where you're going, how fast you can navigate back, even in a whiteout. The other parts too is, yeah, I would say for the protection of the environment and the science going on in and around McMurdo, they don't want anybody interfering with any of that, especially wildlife, marine life there can be quite tricky because penguins are friendlier than you would think.
Mm.
But yeah, I would say there's definitely a couple odd things, especially about the flight pass through there. You are still not allowed to fly over Antarctica in any way, shape, or form. Even our top C-17 pilots that I got to talk to, could you do it? And they're like, we totally could do it. We'd probably get blown out of the sky as soon as we got back. Uh, by the time we got over there,
Mm.
which is a little bit disheartening. And for me, I'm like, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to transverse the whole continent. Even though we did so far back then, we just can't do it now for whatever reason.
Were you prior military?
No, I wasn't. Never
Oh, okay.
before.
Oh, I was just asking. Yeah, just checking. So you started your garage door company and you got basically like a government contract with them.
Sort of. A mentor of mine I was doing okay in the business. A mentor of mine had reached out and said, "Hey, he gives me jobs every once in a while out here. Um, he goes, I have one for you, and I need you to agree with it to go and to do this job before I tell you where it's at." And so, not a problem. I'm thinking, as a Southern Californian, like Bakersfield, maybe that seems quite
Far.
treacherous. That seems pretty far. Maybe Fresno if I'm getting a little spicy. But at that time, the Ukrainian war was already kicking off, and I'm like, it's probably Moldova, it's probably Ukraine because government contracts have been popping up. Yeah, which we were fine with going, and said, of course, I'll go. Whatever it is, I'll throw my hat in the ring. And sure enough, got lined in a Zoom just like this, and it was State Department officials, a couple of people from some other agencies, um, basically in a crisis saying it, which is odd. I usually do emergency calls with garage doors, bigger garage doors like fire stations and big commercial and industrial plants. But essentially, they needed someone to come out there immediately and basically close these doors up before the winter came, or they would have to evacuate about 800 people off that base. Um,
Wow.
so it was myself. It was another gentleman from the company I was with who actually had just started with the company about 2 weeks prior. And what made him one of the most highly qualified people to go was he was single and unmarried. As I just had a girlfriend at the time, now happily married. So, yeah, we were the two best candidates for that. So we agreed to go, and it was it is the hardest logistical place to go on the planet. I heard it's easier to go to space than go here.
Wow.
And I believe the statistic right now is that you're 160,000 times more likely to be a professional NFL player to ever step foot on that continent. That's how
Yeah.
rock solid that system is. It's health screenings, background checks. You're going through everything, and that's with multiple countries. So it's with specifically McMurdo and that treaty that's currently in place. Um, Navigating it is the hardest thing our team goes through. They do a small qualification through us, you know, and then after that, it's hey, keep your head down. You're going through all these background checks, medical exams. You have to be pretty much a physically perfect human
Mm.
to go. So
I could probably go then. No, I'm just kidding.
well,
Just kidding.
about your figure,
No.
man, you definitely you'd fit in right in there. So, which is funny though, because you go and then
Just
you're
kidding.
eating pizza and Coca Cola the whole time. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you get to pig out quite a lot. So,
Nice. And then how many consecutive days have you spent there?
so for us is it's incredibly rare that we even get to go. So most scientists will do a full rotation, which can be 6 months. Some people winter over, which is an entire year.
Oh,
I've known somebody who's done, I believe, a 2 year stay,
wow.
and that's 2 years at Space Camp. For us, I think my longest deployment was 8 days.
Okay.
And a lot of people say, hey, 8 days doesn't sound that long, and it really isn't. Um, but kind of what it's like if you ever spent a weekend camping with the guys, you get real close in the first day or two. So you really get inundated with so much information for the first 2 days, and then almost immediately it's you're one of them. And you really get to know. And for us specifically, we're on something called a critical infrastructure team. So we have basically an open key to go into any building, any door. It's unlimited access. It's monitored unlimited access, but it's unlimited access nonetheless. So for us, in my brain, tinkering with stuff, things like that, we get to go to NASA's propulsion centers. We get to go through a lot of the marine life stuff. They're launching weather balloons. So for us to be able to see that and have our guys be able to be a part of that's really special. So we try to keep that at heart and try to support
Nice.
those guys as much as we can.
That's awesome, bro. That's awesome. And I think that's pretty cool. And then also you're Christian as well, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Since 1993, day one. But yeah, I was a missionary for a while in Papua New Guinea, and no, I owe God everything I have in my life, and my God's blessed me with an amazing wife, and we've cultivated a great family from that. So anybody listening
Amen.
who's not a Christian, I highly Highly advise you that you don't even have to jump head first into it. I talked to God just as what I talked to Josh Monday. Um, yeah, it's a huge part of my life, and that's the biggest part of my life. So I would tell her constantly and tease her, but she's the second greatest decision I ever got to make. So being a Christian was number one.
Yes. Amen, bro.
Yeah.
Amen. So, awesome stuff. So, so far you haven't gone to the Arctic yet, so I can't really ask too much about that, but that's awesome, man. I just really I wanted to bring you on kind of for that, portion, but is there anything you kind of wanted to go over besides that? Maybe something about your Christian walk, anything about God, anything like that you want to go over?
Um, yeah, you know what? I will say this. I've been so blessed to have all the opportunities I've had in life. I if you look at my resume, you'd think somebody drunk wrote it. It's all over the place. Got to do medical stuff in Papua New Guinea, from going to getting deployed with some of the greatest scientists on the planet. I have no college education. I barely made it through high school. Um, One thing that someone taught me very early on was that God is always going to qualify the called. Um, he's not going to call the qualified. Um, so for anybody listening who's wanting more out of life or looking for something else, it's a simple ask. That's all it is. And I ask anybody who's in that calling, especially young men in this world in this day and age, be brave, go out into the unknown. It's history is always going to favor the bold, and even if you feel like maybe you messed up or you're not making it, you're not done yet. So any encouragement I can give to that, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm doing a trip, bro. Because they filmed the 24-hour sun. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going up to Edmonton, Canada, which is 53 degrees north,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and then I'm gonna go down to Punta Arenas, which is 53 degrees south. Which did you fly out of Punta Arenas when you went to Antarctica? Just curious.
No, so we actually fly out of Christchurch, New Zealand.
Oh,
The
okay.
very the South Island, you'd probably get a good glimpse of it. And I guess we'll do this on air because I love it. But if we have an opportunity to open up a seat for you to go, I know we have job checks that go down there, which are smaller deployments that can be up to a couple of days. But dude, I'll put you on the list.
Oh, dude, I'll go for
There's a
sure.
long list, but dude, you would love it if you're a fan of. People will ask me. We have these hilarious hats, make Antarctica great again. Um, but we'll wear the merch and stuff like that. And people will ask, like, "Have you been to Antarctica? That's crazy." And I'm like, "Yeah, I've been. And if you have the opportunity, go to Hawaii. Um, it's ice and dirt for as long as you can see. Um, so yeah, that's what I try to tease people with. But
Yeah, so I'm
no,
gonna
it's a great
go.
experience and
So I'm going
opportunity.
up.
That
I'm
sounds
going.
awesome. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I want to do this because we're gonna film the sunrise sunset, there as well. And since they already did the 24-hour sun in Antarctica, already they already filmed it for 24 hours. Some people contend that, but I do believe that they did. I'm gonna try to do 53 degrees north, 53 degrees south, and I'm gonna film that to see what the sun does as well there. And I'm doing that. And everybody that has donated to that, thank you guys so much. I want to say thank you to the audience. A lot of people, for about four people, five people have already sent some money for that. I really appreciate it, guys.
That's
Thank you.
awesome.
But yeah, so we're gonna do that. And have you ever like filmed the sun from there before, or you just because I
Yeah,
know?
absolutely.
Oh, okay,
I
cool,
was gonna say I
awesome.
can inundate you with many photos, videos, things that you might need. We
Yeah.
do have live pictures of the pyramid out there, which is pretty cool to look at.
Wow. Nice.
That's a whole different rabbit hole. I've been kind of into that one recently because it's on the same um, longitude. Maybe I'm messing this up. Maybe longitudinal line as the Mayan pyramids as well as the Egyptians. So
Right.
there's a lot of speculative talk right now in the Antarctic community that there's no vegetation there for I don't know how many millions of years. Um, but they're starting to collect some artifacts from some of the beaches that are turning up that we may have had New Zealand and Maori culture there long before.
Mhm.
Uh, the Germans or the State Department really ever had a key into Antarctica. So
There's some old maps where Antarctica doesn't have any ice on it at all, and I don't know if those are
I've
100%
I've seen
legit,
a
but
couple of them,
yeah.
and it's fascinating because you can predate these from I think it's almost mid 1500s going into the 1600s, which are by the way, those map makers at the time are highly accurate
Yeah.
to the T. So, and at that point, we do have a good amount of information that we did circumnavigate the globe at that time. Um, yeah, no, I'm completely perplexed by that as well because with the amount of ice there and not being able to access certain parts, there is kind of some speculation because we're looking at sometimes 3 miles thick for our ice runways to land our planes on. So if that's the case, how does 3 miles of ice accumulate even within a couple hundred years? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Um, Even with the right, rainfall and aperture and weather. So to me, it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And me, I'm a young Earth believer just because of the Bible, but I've studied both sides, the old Earth, young Earth, so there's probably been some pretty crazy things that have happened even in 500 years, some as far as the way the world has formed and everything, so
Yeah.
but like I said, I've studied both sides, I've listened to Hugh Ross and his side of like old Earth, and I've listened to Jason Lyle, which is an astrophysicist on young Earth, and I've just studied that thing all the way out, bro. And I do a couple shows on it, but yeah, man, it's very interesting, man, that you've. But if you want, dude, if you ever got me on the list, I'll take a couple days off and go with you, bro, for sure. I'm prior
It's a
military,
good time,
so
man. You get to.
I'm prior
Oh
military,
yeah,
so
you
hopefully it'll
would
be a
fit
quick
right
thing.
in, man. Not a problem. You'd fit right in.
Yeah, Jared was telling me
Which,
that.
by the
Shout
way,
out.
thank you for your service, man.
Thank
For
you,
sure,
bro.
that's
Thank you
awesome.
for yours too, for you going out and doing these things. So
No, of course.
shout out to Jared Bruce too, bro. Thank you, man. I've known Jared since I was in high school, since I was 14, man, and we've gone on this journey together, man. And I'm so happy for him now, man. He's found the Lord and just he found the Lord before I did, and he's just we always talk Bible verses. We always send all biblical stuff together, So I'll include you in the text thread, bro, so we can all send stuff together, So
Dude,
I
that's
think
awesome, man. Yeah,
yeah.
during I went to a Christian college or kind of Christian program called YWAM, Youth with a Mission, and it was by far one of my most formative years. I loved being able to experience that, and we actually had one of the guys that worked on staff. His name's Pastor Nev. Shout out to Eastgate Church in Byron Bay.
All right.
Um, but he was essentially Australia's sort of believe it was Ministry of basically Science and Technology, but one of the most brilliant guys ever, and got to actually study physics under him for a couple months and
Wow.
understanding how the Bible works in physics, how God has sort of created this entire perplexity of everything around us. Which is funny because it's you look at the atheistic agreement agenda of what they're going for, and I'm like, yeah, if you keep going down that road, everything's going to point to the same thing. And you're not
Yes.
going to like it.
Yeah.
Which is it's such a fascinating thing to watch people walk through, and you're like, go a little bit more, go a little bit more, and sure enough, yeah,
Yeah. So
it's
there's
the same conclusion.
this guy Ryan Peterson. He wrote a couple books, The Final Nephilim and another one, and he actually talks about like how the Bible connects to quantum physics, which is interesting, and he has some pretty
Hmm.
good stuff in his book. So yeah, I've heard people talk about that, and even like I've been kind of studying. I'm studying everything, bro. I'm trying to, because as like an apologist, when I go on shows, I get asked all these different questions, so I got to make sure I have some intuitive answers for them, biblically, So I try to study so much different stuff, and I've studied the old Earth, young Earth, the globe Earth, flat Earth, just all these different things, like whether the Bible teaches a flat Earth and all these different things. So I'm just
Hmm.
engulfed in the Bible right now, So it's such a
Have you
blessing.
ever not to throw you another sort of thing on your plate?
It's
Have you
okay.
ever gone down the bee rabbit hole?
The
How bees can
bee.
fly?
Oh, bees. I haven't gone over. Okay,
Yeah,
so I haven't gone
that
down
one's
that rabbit
good.
hole
That one
yet,
gets
but
everybody.
okay, hold on, man, because I got notes for this show, so I'm
Oh,
gonna
of course,
stick
of
that.
course.
So I'll put that on here. So bees, how bees fly. Okay, cool. Let's do
Yeah,
that.
so there's currently, which by the way, we'll just preface it real quick, but
Okay.
there's currently there's no scientific data and hasn't been for the past 60 something years that we've been studying bees that they can fly. So from an evolutionary standpoint, bees are impossible. They're too fat, not to be offensive. They're too round. Their eyes are too big in their head. Their wings aren't strong enough for lift. They can't fly. And they've been doing tests on them for years, but for whatever reason, they can't figure out how they can fly. So
Well, that's the thing. Okay, so I believe in the Bible, so evolution to me is a no-go. But there is some Bible believers that do believe in evolution, like theistic evolution and things like that. So I don't believe in evolution, but is that something you believe in or don't believe in?
no, no, I think from the micro level of evolution, my dog eats kibble now. He's not hunting,
Yeah.
or she's not hunting, wild game anymore. So her palate has changed from that. But I think evolution on a microcosm level can make sense. But from the macro standpoint, it trying to understand evolution is a there's so many holes in it everywhere you go. And it's not so much you have to go into this very deep rabbit hole and go into this data. It's very broad spectrum stuff. And the problem is too is that evolution is taught in our schools as a religion. And that's the one thing I've had like a really hard time with, especially over to public school,
Yeah.
was we're learning about mathematics and how things work, and none of this is adding up. Um, so it's hard to go from math class to science class and go, okay, then how does this make sense? And it just doesn't. And so it's in the textbook, it's what it is. And well, who wrote the textbook? Well, it was this guy, and this is what his ideas were, and his ideas are all crap. So yeah, from a young age, I was very my parents were very proud of me for that, but I was not on board with it at all.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, I never was. And reading the Bible, and then, like in Genesis says everything comes after its kind. And so it kind of lets
Do
like
that.
God let us know ahead of time, that
Yeah.
we don't come from monkeys. Plus we're obviously we're made in God's image. We're not made in, a monkey's image or something like that. So
Yeah,
interesting
and it's
stuff though.
I think going even just down to human contact, and something my wife and I been recently talking about with genetics, especially in starting a family. But if you actually go down your genetic, like, anybody can do this and go get it tested, which is pretty fascinating. But you have a partner, you guys have a child, that child will share 100 genetic mutations between both partners, which I think is pretty fascinating, and you can actually back it up every single time. And it really only comes down to two different genetic codes. So at one point, there was only two different people on this earth at one time. Um,
Which would be Adam and
so
Eve.
which would be Adam and Eve. So there's a
There we go.
fascinating story behind that. So it is a funny thing to it's one of the things I love about the Bible and math is that math can't lie. Um, it just
And,
can't. So
yes. And God can't lie either, so it's impossible for
true
God to
that.
lie. Titus 1:2, Hebrews
Yep.
6:18, it's impossible for God to lie. So what a bunch of blessings. And then you live in Orange County?
Yes, sir. Orange County, California.
Nice. Yeah, I'm right here in Rialto, bro, so I'm close.
Yeah, you're right up the street, man. I'll go
Yeah.
venture up and see you for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I think we should all meet up. Like I said, we should probably go out to lunch sometime or dinner and
Yeah,
meet you and
absolutely.
Jared and the family, bro. We'll go out. That'd be
No, of
awesome.
course.
But so is there any other subjects that you maybe had in mind, bro? Did you want that you wanted to go over? Any kind of conspiracies you had questions about? Anything that maybe?
Um, this is good. I like the evolution talk because that's one that always gets me fired up because it's one of the ones I'm most passionate about.
Yeah.
Because I love science, and that's I think part of the reason I loved going to Antarctica was being able to be that kid again and being around scientists that are the most highly funded, some of the most remarkable, smart people on planet Earth, and there's a church there. I think that's my most favorite part. This whole
Nice.
thing's about science, but there's still a church.
Oh,
And I'm like,
nice.
well, something must be right about this then. Um, that's just me being cocky, but no, man, it's been honestly like such a pleasure to talk about Antarctica, my experiences. We're going to be having more experiences there, and for sure, dude, we'll definitely be able to share more and get you some more photos and cool stuff there that you can check out. I know I have some gifts for you as well. We'll be able to
Thank you,
get in your
bro.
hands for sure.
I appreciate that. So I think the Levi, I thought I had my own studio. Like I do have I have a friend that I have a friend in LA that has a he has a studio, and he does in-person podcasts. So if you want to do a podcast in person, he does about 2 hour shows though. So if you do want to do a show on his show, I could get you on there, and
That'd
you
be a
could
good
talk
time.
about.
I mean, this is somewhat recent. I got asked to be in another podcast somewhat recently, and I don't. The problem with all these stories and the information I have is 90% of it is cultivated with the same people I went out there with, which are my friends.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm currently now taking that information and kind of choreographing it to something that isn't quote unquote bar talk and crap talking with your buddies. So yeah, absolutely, man. And anytime you have any other questions for me, or your listeners have questions for me, you guys can always shoot me an email. I'm
I'm
always happy to chit chat.
I might have some podcast invites for you after this, bro. So some people might want to get you
Beautiful,
on the
man.
show because, like I said, man, the 24-hour sun was something that was big. It was like in December, it was huge, because I was waiting. I was gonna go. I came in fourth to go on the trip. It was this guy, Pastor Will Duffy, and he did like he was paying for everybody to go. He's a globe believer, and he was like, you know what? I want to take people out there so they can witness the 24-hour sun. So that way he wants to show that because on a flat Earth, Antarctica would be on the outside. I don't know if you ever studied flat Earth before. And
Yeah,
Antarctica would be
I've
like fully
seen.
on the outside, like how the maps are, like the
Yeah.
Mercator maps, or
Yep.
even the map that you saw, where the map that you saw, where it showed Antarctica not having,
Correct.
yeah, so that's kind of the train of thought. You know what I mean? So the sun is supposedly going over a flat Earth and not going down. Okay, so basically you'd be going around a flat Earth.
Interesting.
Yeah. So in the north it works, because in the north we see the sun going around us, like in California, for example, and then it sets right to left. So um, it'd be very difficult, I think, for the flat Earth map to have a 24-hour sun in Antarctica because the outside would be Antarctica. So if you're in Mercator, what is it called, Mercator?
McMurdo.
McMurdo. If
Yeah.
you're in McMurdo in another part of Antarctica, they all see the 24-hour sun, and if it is around the outside like a flat Earth, it'd be difficult for a 24-hour sun to be on a flat Earth. Is what the train of thought is. So people were saying
Yeah.
that it's fake, it is not real. So I wanted to bring you on because I was like, okay, so they filmed it, but they were saying maybe it's CGI, a couple of questions about it. So I wanted to bring you on because you have no skin in the game, bro. You're just basically coming on to say what's up. Someone I know from Orange County. And I was like, bro, I gotta bring him on the show. I told Jared, I said, man, I gotta get Levi on, bro. I gotta have him on. So I'm very glad you came on. I appreciate it, bro. If there's like I said, if there's anything else you want to talk about, I'm open. If you have any questions about the show, about any conspiracies out there, um,
Yeah.
you can ask me anything, bro, or we can
Honestly,
do
man,
it
I
off
would
off
I would
camera.
love to come back more prepared.
It's all
Um,
good.
Currently
I think you
did
did
crazy
great,
week, crazy. Yeah,
bro.
yeah,
You have
would
a great
love to come
personality for
back.
podcasting, dude.
Yeah.
You're great, man. For real.
I don't know if that's the high caffeine intake I just experienced, but I'm sure that will limit itself. Um, no, man. I can't thank you enough for giving the opportunity, and dude, we'll definitely have to do this again. I definitely want. I have a lot more material,
Okay.
specifically more of sort of the military perspective and kind of point of view from Antarctica, its key objectives, why we're out there, why we're spending so much money, time, why we have before and pulled out and then gone back and then pulled out. It is something that we'll see in the coming years. I would assume in the next 10, 15, 20 years, we'll probably see the largest buildup of assets begin to shift over. And this is all public information. You can go online to bidding websites that go to Antarctica, and it's billions and billions and billions of dollars getting invested into this space game. Um, a lot of reasons could be for that. Either it's our control of being a obviously dominant U.S. aggressor in that area. It is sort of odd. There's Chinese fishing vessels everywhere. And if you guys ever study how China operates, all their fishing vessels can be converted into military
Mm.
utilities relatively quickly, um, which is sort of odd for that region and area. But I know it's by far one of the highest density for rare earth minerals on the planet. So USGS is there all the time doing samples. I've seen pictures of gold nuggets that are the size of laptops or small dogs. At one
Wow.
point, you obviously cannot bring them back. Um, but yeah, and
I'm
they're
gonna
not
swim back with that. No, I'm just kidding.
exactly. And I got to room with one of them, and he goes, "Yeah, we found a 2 pound gold nugget today." And I'm like, "You guys must be drilling for miles down." He goes, "No, it was about a foot and a half under the dirt. We
Wow.
just had it under a whatever detector they had and pulled it up, and
Oh,
it was there."
that's crazy,
Um,
bro. Man.
so it seems to be that wherever money might be, the science sort of follows. But the odd and interesting thing about McMurdo specifically, and even just all the other bases out there, a lot of other countries have bases there, um, dedicated to science. They're studying air density samples. You're doing stuff with ice, um, studying fish out there. There's plenty of odd fish out there to study, and for the medical benefits that they can have for us as humans, which I thought was pretty fascinating. But for the United States, we have the biggest, baddest bases out there. It is the largest. They're super cities, and people don't
Mm.
really realize that. Even I say small space camp. Um, you can sustain life out there for 1,200 people for years to come. So for that to actually exist out there, um, is to me, it's beyond comprehension. And just to put perspective in there, when we're out there, and especially going to some of the farther out camps, the next closest people to us are ISS.
Hmm.
That is how difficult it is to make it out there and get out there. So,
Wow. Interesting, bro. Well, thank you, man. Appreciate you coming on, man. I think we had a good conversation. Like I said, if you want to jump on another show anytime, I think I'll probably have some podcast invites for you after this to
of
discuss
course,
maybe the 24-hour sun and stuff that you've seen. And I really appreciate you coming on, bro. Thank you.
absolutely, man. Dude, God bless everyone. Have a great night.
Yeah, and I always end this in prayer, so let's do that. So,
Dude, of course, let's do it.
Father God, in the name of Jesus, we appreciate everything you do, Lord. Thank you, and I just ask that you keep Levi safe and his family. Definitely has a blessed home with a blessed wife, and we appreciate you giving him that. And we really appreciate you having Levi on. And like I said, he's going out and going into crazy areas, government contracts, and I just want to pray for his safety. If he's deployed to anywhere that has any type of action as far as like military action, Lord, I just want to ask that you protect him. Also, Lord, I want to ask that you protect all the people that are involved in what just happened today with Donald Trump and United States going against Iran and Israel and all the things that are happening right now. Lord, I want you to protect all people, not just Israel, not just United States, but the people in Iran, the innocent people
Mm.
in Iran and the innocent people in Israel and the innocent people in the United States in case we get attacked, Lord. We just ask that you please protect us, protect the troops on both sides, on all sides, in the Israeli troops, the United States troops, and also the Iranian troops, Lord. I know that it might sound counterintuitive to ask for that, Lord, but I know how it is to be a soldier. I know that there's people out there that are uncles, that are dads, that are trying to come home to their kids, Lord. And I just ask that you please assist all the soldiers out there and just bring this to peace. We just want peace, Lord. And I just ask that you put peace in the hearts of our president and the Israeli president and also the regime out in Iran. That this ends up in peace and no more war, Lord. Please, we ask that. All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Lord. Thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, bro.
Amen.
Levi, what a
Hey,
great show,
Godspeed,
man.
Jeff.
I really
Dude, thank you
appreciate you,
so much
bro.
for having me. Seriously, such a pleasure.
All right, everyone that's listening, thank you. If you could please do me a favor, jump on my GoFundMe for this trip that I'm doing. Everybody that has donated so far, thank you so much. But the GoFundMe will be below. You can check it on my YouTube. I'm trying to raise 2,500 right now. I'm at $350, which is awesome, and I appreciate it. And I also got sent 200 on Venmo, so I'm about at $500. So what a blessing to everybody. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you, and God bless you.